I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, you know, she would never do this to us, but also part of maybe this is all part of a plan.
I mean, you really believe that maybe she had just decided to disappear for a time?
For a time, and then that she would call us and we would go and join her. Yeah.
How long did you believe that?
Years. Many, many years.
I got to tell you, the kids dealt with a lot of pain, Harry. And sitting with Anderson Cooper was a good choice because he understands pain and he understands how to help people talk about it in a way that I really think helped you if you watched 60 Minutes last night. So this is about the Prince's memoir, Spare. Now, after what I just said, I kind of really phase into, and I'm new to this royal stuff. I mean, I covered the wedding. I've been around him for a long time, but I don't get it. The book comes out tomorrow. I don't know how he can ever expect to have a relationship with his family again with the hits that he's putting out in this book. So I want to bring in our royal expert, Victoria Arbiter, the royal expert. She says Harry is spilling a lot of family dirt that he should have kept to himself. Now, I don't understand you people that well, Vicky, as we often discuss. But look, where I come from, you may not like your family. You may have problems, but you shut your mouth when you're outside the house. And I've always thought that was the rule for you guys, especially when it came to the royals. And he seems to have thrown that out the window. I mean, how big a deal is this book and what Harry is doing for himself and to himself? And hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Well, this is a very big deal. This is not the first time that a royal has shared their story. In 1992, Diana very famously shared her story with Andrew Morton. We didn't know that she'd contributed to the extent she did until after she had passed away. But really what is so particularly striking about this book is that Harry shares a lot of very personal details about himself, and I'm talking personal details. He shares about how he lost his virginity, his experiences with drugs, trying to contact his mother through a medium. There's a running thread through here of grief, but I think what is also incredibly striking, given how much he has railed against people invading his own privacy, his willingness to speak so openly about private and deeply intimate details that affect his family. And I think that really presents something of a double standard, and I think his family's going to struggle with that. At the same time, he's talking a lot about reconciliation. He says he wants his family to acknowledge the wrongs that have occurred. He wants them to apologize. He wants them to be open to discussions. But when you've shared details like this on such a global scale, interviews, the Netflix docuseries, and now with his book, how do they trust you?
Right, and also, you know, look, I too think the American media is the strongest outfit in the world, but if I were he, I'd want to be talking to us also versus the Brit press. I mean, a lot of them are going to be deferential towards the royals, so I get it. I give Coop a pass, not just because I care about him personally, but if you're going to talk about loss and pain, Anderson Cooper understands it in a way that can really help, and I think did help, establish a dialogue and an ability to open up in a way that I think will help Harry with the American audience. Now, the fight with the brother, set that up for us, because I know people are making a big deal about that moment.
There has been a lot of talk about this, and I think it's because really it does shine a rather unflattering light on Prince William. These are brothers. Chris, you have a brother. Brothers fight. Sometimes they get into what we in England would call fisticuffs. But this particular story, it is at Nottingham Cottage, where Harry was living at the time. We're going to take a listen to it in just a moment. But, William, there had been these stories building up behind palace walls. We didn't learn about it, the public, until much, much later, that Meghan had perhaps been bullying members of staff, that there had been mistreatment with staff, that some of the staff were unhappy. William had been trying to contact Harry to talk about this. They were sharing an office at the time. Harry was rather resistant to phone calls, and so William went over, and here's what happened.
He was being told certain things by people within his office, and at the same time he was consuming a lot of the tabloid press, a lot of the stories. And he had a few issues which were based not on reality. And I was defending my wife, and he was coming for my wife. She wasn't there at the time. His frustrations were growing and growing and growing. He was shouting at me. I was shouting back at him. It wasn't nice. It wasn't pleasant at all. And he snapped, and he pushed me to the floor.
It's not a fight by my family standards, but what is the point of this? Does it make him sympathetic?
It depends what camp you're in. I think some people have found a lot of sympathy with Prince Harry, given how much he has shared. Really, Chris, I'm not kidding when I say there is no subject that is off limits. But is it flattering or friendly to Prince William? Not so much.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.